Welcome to Experts Explain Trauma. Today we've got Dr. Jessica joining us to answer questions that we have about binge eating and emotional eating. She's also going to give us some golden nuggets on how to work through binge eating and emotional eating. Okay, Dr. Jessica, here's our question for today. Why do I sabotage myself every time I start making progress with food?
Okay.
This is also a me question. It isn't, but it is.
Okay. So when I first looked at this question, I started answering it, and then I took a step back, like I was writing some stuff out, and I was like, wait a minute, what does she mean by progress? Right. So let me give you like my train of thought, right? Because so I was like, what does she mean by progress? Because for some people, for some women, progress means I haven't binged in a while. Or I'm finally feeling better and, more in charge of my eating habits, right? And then all of a sudden, emotional eating or binge eating comes back, right? And so progress feels like it's gone. So that was my first kind of train of thought when I was thinking about the answer. But then I went to this place of like, well, for other people, especially when I first started working with women, I'll hear like, well, I've made some progress. Like I ate really good today. I ate clean, I didn't have any sugar, or I limited my carbs. Right. And then all of a sudden I started binge eating at night. Right. And so they see progress in a way that I particularly don't see progress, to be honest. Right. So I wanted to ask you, like, what do you mean by progress?
That's good, because you're right. Everybody, and this is something that I like to dive into on my podcast and my recordings, is that we need to understand what these words mean, because all of us, it's different. Progress for you is different than progress for me. And so my idea of writing it is progress, I guess, beginning to have a better relationship with food, because that's where I'm at. But might not be where our listeners are. It could just be, like you say, maybe I got through the day without eating sugar or whatever. So, yeah.
Okay. Perfect. So when I was writing I was jotting some stuff down, and I was on your wavelength, right? Because I was like, I think what she, having met with you a couple of times, I was like, I think what she means is like, okay, my binge and emotional eating has decreased. And then all of a sudden it's like I have like a little, I have a relapse, right?
Right.
I know that oftentimes my clients, and potentially some of your listeners, often say that they're self-sabotagers.
Yes.
It's like, and so maybe they haven't binged in 3 nights, and all of a sudden they have a huge binge. And it's not because they're actually making progress with healing their relationship with food. It's because they've dieted for 3 days and have been, quote unquote, successful.
Oh my gosh, that is a game changer, looking at it like that.
Right. So I went 2 different directions, and I wanted to make sure I gave all listeners maybe something that they could take away from this kind of conversation today. So let's talk about like your definition first, right? So like, let's say you're making real headway with changing your emotional and binge eating, right? And so say like you used to binge every night, and then say it's every other, and then it's once a week, and then it's once a month, right? And that is definitely progress. Absolutely. Progress is not never binging again, by the way, or emotional eating, right? So when
Okay, good.
Right, that is not the only definition of progress, right?
Okay.
So you've been feeling better, you've had more peace around food, you've gone days, weeks without binging, and then like all of a sudden, like that old pattern comes back, right? Usually it feels like it's out of nowhere. And then if you're like many people, you're a perfectionist and you're really hard on yourself. And so it feels like you have undone all of the quote progress, right? And so I just want to say that is not sabotage. That's a signal.
Oh, I love that.
Right? That's a signal. And so I say this frequently. I'm like, well, hold on. When a binge comes back, that is not sabotage and it's not failure. That is a signal. That is information to be learned. Okay.
And that's compassion. That's compassion.
That's compassion and curiosity.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's what your nervous system is probably saying to you is, oh, hey, something's going on and I feel unsafe, or maybe progress feels unsafe and unfamiliar or scary. So I'm not sure I can trust it. I want to go back to the old way. Right. And so there's kind of like a two ways I think about this, which is like, okay, maybe the progress is relatively new and your nervous system is like, oh, I don't know. This is new.
This is uncomfortable. I don't like this.
It's like, remember, I've been living in trauma for 25 years, right? So
Right.
like, so not binging feels uncomfortable and scary. And so even when you're healing, your brain is going to continue to scan the environment for risk. Even if the changes are great changes, even if they're healthy changes for your body and your brain. And so you might be doing perfectly fine. It just means then that like your brain is like, oh, this is still new and it scares me. And so it will quote unquote kind of relapse, right? So it's a signal that maybe progress feels a little scary and unfamiliar, right? It's almost like, so from a trauma lens, progress can feel like exposure,
Oh yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
feeling good can feel very triggering, right? How much do we talk about like we're wired to seek out chaos after you go through trauma,
Yes, exactly.
right?
Chaos feels normal.
Chaos feels normal, it's comfortable, it's familiar, right? And so that's part of the answer to this question is perhaps like that's might be what's going on because maybe some part of you has learned like if I expect too much, I'll get hurt.
Right,
You need
right.
to
Or if
maybe
things are going well, something bad's going to happen because it's been going
something
so
bad's
well.
gonna happen, right? Might as
Hmm.
well screw it all up and then at least I know what's coming
Right,
and I'm
right.
not
This
like
is what I'm
taken off.
expecting.
Right, right. So yeah, so when your peace with food starts to grow, there might be that other part of you that reaches for food emotionally or binge eating wise, not to sabotage you, but to bring you back to what's familiar and what you know, right? So that could be definitely part of it.
I mean, it
Um,
makes sense because if you've never done this before, your brain doesn't know if that's a safe place or not. Because all
yeah,
you know is, I call it, it's like you get comfortably uncomfortable.
yeah, yep, as you should, because your brain
Hmm.
is wired to adapt.
Right, right.
Bodies and brains are wired to adapt, and that's why people can withstand the worst forms of trauma and continue living through it, right? And so humans are incredibly resilient, and I wish we didn't have to be. Right. And so the thing is like, I don't, so if that, binge eating reemerges, this is your chance to look at it and understand it. You get curious about it, right? It's like, oh, okay, you're bored right now. What might be going on? Right? What might be going on? And you may also think, like, not so, there may be that path of like, okay, progress is scary and unfamiliar, but there may also be that path of, no, I've been binge free for like months upon months, and I've been really good with that. Like, but now what happened? So if you find yourself on that pathway, what I would encourage you to do is be curious about what is going on externally, right? Like what is going on? Like maybe you're under a certain type of work stress. Maybe you've let somebody in your life who has been violating your boundaries more. Maybe you have sacrificed your self-care ritual without even knowing it, right? Sometimes we slip back into old patterns without realizing it, and that triggers the relapse of binging, if that makes sense.
That totally makes sense.
Right.
And we
So
do this without realizing it.
yes. So then the binging again is a signal where the binging is like, hey, excuse me, you're not taking care of yourself by giving yourself movement or self-care or getting a hug every day, right? So the binging is signaling to you like, oh, hey, you're not getting your needs met, so I'm gonna have to show up again like I did like 5 months ago, remember? And then you're like,
Yes.
oh yeah, I've been sacrificing
Yeah.
myself for, yeah. See it as a messenger.
I love that. So take out the word sabotage, really, right?
Yep.
And change it to it's a signal. I love that because again, it creates that separation between us and our behavior. Our
Yes.
behavior, because I used to take my behavior as who I am.
Yeah.
So then the shame and self-deprecation and all the stuff that I used to do to myself. And what that does is it gives a space between us and gives us that opportunity to be curious and go, okay, wait a minute. This is a signal. What does that mean? What is it signaling? And like you say, first thing I'll do is think about, okay, what's going on in my life? What's going on in my life? Oh, I got this new thing and I thought I was fine with it, but maybe I'm
But I'm
not.
not. Yes. Yes. It's so interesting. Like what I realized, years ago, and still occasionally do is, so my favorite way of taking care of myself is reading. I love to read for fun. I love a good psychological thriller. And so there have been times in my life where I would stop reading for fun and it would just gradually come on, right? Where maybe like I used to, like typically I read for at least 30 minutes every night before bed. It soothes me. And so there have been times in my life where like that 30 minutes turned into 25 and then 20 and then 15, and it was replaced by doom scrolling, right? Or, something else that was not actually replenishing me, right? And then I would wonder after I got home the next day that it's like, oh wait, why am I eating this food right now? I already eaten dinner, and I'm like, oh, I have not been caring for myself. hmm And so, but you have to be curious and compassionate enough to examine it from, like you said, an
Yes.
outside perspective. Yeah.
Yes. And not be so
Yep.
hard on ourselves. And that does take some time because I've come a long way in that area, but you know what? If I'm not paying attention, it can sneak in. And next thing I know, I'm in my head, I'm saying really awful things about myself.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be very, very sneaky, very fast.
I mean, really, compassion and curiosity are absolute keys. And, if you go into everything with that, trust me, it's going to save you a lot of grief. I had someone say that to me probably about 4 or 5 years ago, and that has really stuck with me. That was one of those moments where someone says something to you and you went, whoa, there's something to that. That's really good. And I've used that because I was so judgmental on myself, which then I was judgmental outwardly, right? If you're going to be
Yeah.
so hard on
Yeah.
yourself, you're going to be hard on those outside as well.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And so you change your framework, you change your lens, right? And you work from and there's a third C in there that I use a lot, which is also compromise. And so,
Oh,
but that's the third one. And so when I work with my clients, I'm like, okay, first we get curious, then we get compassionate, and then we compromise with it, right? So
got it.
that's a fun time for another episode, perhaps.
Yes.
But for the most part, just curiosity and compassion. Anytime, we think that we're self-sabotaging, like replace sabotage with signal, right? Like
Yes.
what is my body trying to signal to me right now?
Exactly. I love that. So saying change sabotage to signal.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Jessica. This is awesome. This is so great. Thank you.
Absolutely. You are welcome.
If this resonates with you or you've got a question for our experts, let us know in the comments and make sure to subscribe for more insights on trauma healing.